In a negative way, you know things have gotten a little bit real, and he did that on Saturday night, tweeting in part, quote, "We as Lakers fans can accept being outplayed, but we deserve more than a lack of effort and no sense of urgency. Owner Jeannie Buss, you deserve better." So for more on the tweet heard around Laker Nation, we're joined by reporter Dave McMenamin. Dave, you were in the press room when Magic tweeted. What was the reaction amongst players?
Yeah, Malika, everything was real on Saturday night other than the efficacy of the Lakers defense. Now, LeBron James, it's a very rare occurrence for him not to speak following a game. It was just the second time all year that he didn't, but it was another bad loss for one of his teams. He's lost 4 out of his last 6 games playing in Denver, and it was left up to Russell Westbrook and Dwight Howard to respond to Magic. Russell's point was that Magic hasn't been around this team, and so he has no business to speak on the Lakers. Now, Magic, because the Lakers don't have a mascot, he kind of fills that void. He is the voice of the fan. He's been associated with the franchise for 30 plus years. But Dwight Howard wasn't even asked about Magic, and on his way out the press room echoed Russell Westbrook's sentiments. So that let us know that that tweet was resonating within the Lakers locker room. It got their attention, and LeBron James made a tweet last night saying he apologizes to Laker fans based on how things are going this season.
But it didn't sound like Russell Westbrook wholly disagreed with the sentiment of, well, we need to play better, we need to get it together, to play better, we need to get it together a little bit, just maybe the tact in which it happened. Now, the Lakers, they face the Jazz tonight. They've had some success with LeBron at the 5. So what should their plan be tonight going against Rudy Gobert?
It was interesting to see in that Nuggets game them going away from LeBron at the 5, starting Dwight Howard against Nikola Jokic. Nikola Jokic still had his way against Dwight Howard with the triple-double. And the question is, will Frank Vogel go back to LeBron? Because that has been a consistent part of a positive identity that they've developed in the last 13 games since Anthony Davis went out with his knee injury. And certainly, if you can see things that work, you are potentially looking at a future playoff opponent in the Jazz. They are on the upper tier of the conference. The Lakers are going to have to work their way into the bottom tier of the conference. And you can see if you could have the same type of effect that the Clippers did last year with Terrence Mann against Rudy Gobert in the playoffs, nullifying his effect. Perhaps that could be a preview of what the Lakers could do with LeBron manning the middle against this Jazz team.
Well, 2 more home games for the Lakers tonight against Utah and Wednesday against the Pacers before they go in their 6-game East Coast road trip that we've talked so much about. Dave McMenamin, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time today. So you mentioned it, LeBron James, he did not speak to the media after Saturday's loss, but he did tweet, like Dave said, #LakerNation, I apologize and I promise we will be better. So I want to bring in our full panel here. And Richard, I'm going to start with you.
Oh, God.
What was your reaction to LeBron James's tweet?
No player. So I've been very fortunate. I'm not going to list all the players that I've been fortunate enough to play with. Jason Kidd, Tim Duncan, Dirk Nowitzki, Steph Curry.
Are they fortunate to play with you?
No, they're not fortunate to play. It's a cross that they all have to bear. I have never seen a person have full understanding of everything good is my fault and everything bad is my fault. And that's what you see here with LeBron. He's not talking about Russell's not playing well. He's not talking about Anthony Davis has been out. He's just like, at the end of the day, if we get this, if we have all the positive things happening, we're the #1 seed, everyone's going to look at me. If we're struggling, everyone's going to look at me. So he's stepping up. This is a sign of leadership. Now, does their team suck? Goddamn right they do suck. They suck badly. Like, it is really bad to watch them. It's hard to watch. And this is the thing that I think makes people really understand how bad they've been struggling, is that no one is looking that when Anthony Davis comes back, they'll be fine. They're like, man, things weren't pretty when he was here. So even when you add Anthony Davis into this mix, there's still a boatload of questions.
Well, and Ramona, you have covered LeBron and the Lakers for many, many years. What was your reaction to that?
I mean, look, LeBron doesn't do anything without being intentional about it. So when he left without speaking, that was intentional, because he knew he could not say anything nice that night. And he doesn't apologize in the way that he did without that being intentional, because I think LeBron's being good LeBron right now. He's not going to undercut anybody. He's not going to sell anybody out. But can we just back up for a second? Magic Johnson, who quit on the Lakers a couple years ago, is going to say any more effort? Like, I just...
But, you know, it's sacrilege to say anything negative about Magic, even though Magic deserves some of it.
None of the players who went and took the podium, Russell Westbrook, they didn't say anything negative about Magic Johnson. They said he is entitled to his opinion, and they also didn't disagree with the sentiment of effort.
Correct.
Anyone looking at that game against the Denver Nuggets, who, by the way, are undermanned, even though they have superstar, Nikola Jokic, and the reigning MVP, anyone looking at that effort is not going to say, you know what, we did our best, we are proud of that.
Oh,
so
God.
there was this sort of push-pull that was happening in that game. All right, so from one super franchise to another, the Knicks, they just wrapped up the game against the Hornets. Hornets taking on the Knicks, and it was all Miles Bridges. So in the second quarter,
Miles Bridges he's my favorite young player in this league. Why? Well, go ahead.
well, is he the most improved
Yes,
player?
he's the most, at this point in time right now, look, you can mention a lot of players. You can mention Ja. You can mention even his own teammate LaMelo, who has made a big jump this year. Don't even forget about Bane in Memphis and some of the things
That's
that
right.
he has done, the jump that he has made. But I think Miles Bridges has been the most improved player this year thus far.
He had a career-high 38 points. His plus-minus, plus 26. He was 5 of 9 from 3.
I'm telling you,
Is he your most
career high, get it in the garden.
Yeah, this year. I mean, I think there's a few good, as you mentioned, Bane. I think Tyrese Maxey's in the hunt for that as well.
Absolutely.
There's some really good candidates this year, but I think he's in the lead right now.
How do you see the Charlotte Hornets? I mean, so high on them coming into the season, and then it was sort of like, okay, they went through a little bit of a slump here, and now they're sort of starting to course correct. How do you see the end of the season playing out?
I love them. I think, me personally, I think they can make it to the second round if they're playing well, if they're healthy, if they have their full lineup, because they have so much depth and they play a great brand of basketball. They're one of the best at assist in this league. They're always topping a 30 assist mark, and that's one of the things that means that, yeah, LaMelo Ball's the top, but you got Terry Rozier, you got Gordon Hayward, you have so many guys down the line that contribute, and the jump from Bridges, year on year, he keeps making an exponential jump, which is rare for players of that talent.
So as we look at the Eastern Conference standings here, the Knicks are 10th. Down there at 10th, they are tied with record-wise with the Wizards. So Ramona, there were such high expectations for the Knicks coming into this year after getting to the first round of the playoffs. Excuse you, Richard. How can they sort of turn this around?
I mean, we saw some of this start in the first round of the playoffs last year against the Hawks, right? Where they solved Julius Randle, they shut him down, and then when you shut down the best player, the rest of the guys got to step up. They tried to add scoring and they tried to add shooting to this lineup, and it ended up hurting them defensively. They got to do something, and they actually have a fairly decent roster to work with here. They're not hamstrung by any really bad contracts. I'm excited to see what Cam Reddish does when they get him going.
I think Cam Reddish is a good addition, but like you said, to your point, you added offense. You added Kemba Walker, you added Evan Fournier, because you were like, hey, we have a great defense. We can go from, let's say, ranked 10 on defense to ranked 13, but if we can up our offense from 17th to 12th, we're making, a positive move, but they just haven't been able to put it together.
They just haven't also had a consistency out of that center position. Like last year, Nerlens Noel, to me, could have been first team all defense. Like he was that good and that important. He's been in and out of the lineup. Mitchell Robinson hasn't been the same guy. Like they just need a little more consistency on that back line.
Well, and they set the bar. Their fans, they set expectations last season, and all I'm going to say is 6 players this year, they have set their career highs at Madison Square Garden.
Welcome to the club, guys. Welcome to the club.
I'm sorry you're in the same club as Richard. Ramona, thank you so much for joining. Remember, KD was injured on Saturday against the Pelicans, and sources told our Adrian Wojnarowski that the injury was a sprained MCL in his left knee, and he will be out for 4 to 6 weeks. And the New York Daily News, they are never shy. They reacted to the injury by calling the Nets, quote, 1.5 men. That refers to Kyrie Irving's ability for road games only. So here's Steve Nash, the coach of the Nets, pregame today, talking about KD. Take a listen.
We just have to do the best we can. We can't cry about it. We can't feel sorry for ourselves. We got to keep building, see what we can learn and how we can grow during this period of Kevin being out, and how we can continue to move this thing forward. So when they do come back, we're in a better place and further along, and he can rejoin us in a place where we can feel better about where we are in that part of the season.
So for more on this, we're now joined by senior NBA insider Adrian Wojnarowski. So Woj, what else can you tell us about the timeline here for KD's injury?
Well, look, I think the way this timeline falls, 4 to 6 weeks, is what the Nets expect. Comes right in the middle of the All-Star break. So the idea that they would bring him back prior to the All-Star break, I think you can probably forget him for Cleveland, the All-Star game. But they come out on the 24th. That's when they would play their first game coming out of the break. And at that point, you're around that 5-week mark. And so I think that's, for now, a good early benchmark around the Nets for a return. But you'll see how it heals. And listen, there was a lot of despite the fact that you're losing him for a month plus, there was a sigh of relief around the Nets on Sunday morning when the MRI showed that, Kevin Durant will play again this season and should be back healthy, fully recovered, certainly in plenty of time for the postseason.
An MCL sprain, similar, right, to what we see Anthony Davis going through right now. 11 of the Nets' next 14 games are on the road, so that means a little bit more Kyrie Irving we're going to be able to see. But Richard, KD, he's been a part of the MVP conversation this season, and he's been absolutely brilliant for Brooklyn. So what'll be the keys for the Nets to stay afloat now that he's out for those 4 to 6 weeks, as Woj is reporting?
Well, obviously the key to me, the 11 out of 14 with Kyrie, that's huge, because now you get like a whole lot of Kyrie. It's not a game in, a game out, 2 games in, 2 games out. You actually can build a little rhythm. But this falls straight on James Harden. James Harden has been, one of the top players in this league, and including last year before he popped his hamstring, he was in the MVP conversation. And this year he's been off to a slow start, adjusting to the new rules, not quite having his rhythm of the James Harden that we're familiar with. But now this is your time. This is back to being your show. You're going to have some help on the road with Kyrie there, but James Harden has to get back to that space of being one of the top 5 players in this league.
Well, and he is top 5 in minutes, so was Kevin Durant. So we're going to see how that adjustment is made too, Mark.
Yeah, and the Nets have this really small lineup or this small backcourt with, Patty Mills joining Kyrie. But the guy I'm keeping an eye on is the former LSU star Cam Thomas. In 3 of the last 4 games, he scored over 20 points. He's averaged 13.9 points this month. They need him to give some scoring off the bench, especially if Patty's not going to be there.
He hit that game winner the other day. He was looking pretty good for them. And then Steve Nash today, we heard a little bit of sound from him on Kevin Durant, but he also mentioned that Joe Harris, who has missed a significant amount of time after undergoing surgery, is on this current trip with him. He's not expected to play, but he's slowly getting himself back on the court. So if the Nets can get a little bit healthier here, then maybe they can get into a little bit of a rhythm that Kevin Durant can then slide back into, Woj.
Yeah, and they're hoping certainly to get Joe Harris back. They've taken their time with his rehab. Last season, without KD, Kyrie Irving, James Harden, Nets won 16 of 19 games.
So they're hoping if they can replicate. Welcome back to NBA Today. I'm Malika Andrews. Richard Jefferson and Mark Spears still here, but now we're also joined by our senior writer, Ramona Shelburne. So from the East Coast, which we were just talking about with the Sixers, let's go to the West Coast and Draymond Green, who is out at least 2 more weeks as he deals with that calf injury that the team announced is related to a disc in his lower back. So Mark Spears, you are based in the Bay Area, and initially Draymond told you that he didn't expect to miss much time here. What changed?
Yeah, a week ago, he thought he had a possibility of playing in last weekend's game. Obviously, that didn't happen. The sad thing is the calf injury ended up being a lower disc injury, which is certainly scary. But, I texted with him today. He said the tightness has improved, which is a great sign to him. He's doing more daily. He also said that the 2 weeks of being out is legit. So get used to Jonathan Kuminga. I think this will be a good time for that rookie. But Draymond is optimistic that the back isn't a major issue and he'll be back in 2 weeks.
Legit, not a major issue. But Ramona, is there any element of this that is precautionary?
Oh, yeah. All of this is a precaution right now. But I was scared when I saw that update, Mark. Like, when you see a lower leg injury tied to a disc issue in your back, as somebody who went through this myself, that means there's a spinal nerve involved. And when you have something like that, that is a scary thing because you don't feel it in your back. You feel it down your leg. And I texted, Steve Kerr obviously had a back surgery as well. I got nervous when I read that, but he says, no, we really are just being cautious here. It's not as serious as a surgery kind of thing. This is just being cautious because they frankly need Draymond Green later in the year, and it really is going to be at least 2 weeks. They have a 7-game homestand. He will not play in all of it.
Yeah.
Well, they need him. We can see it out on the floor. And Richard, your best friend Perk, he said that Draymond Green is the heart and the soul of this team. So do you think the Warriors are going to miss Dray more on offense or on defense?
Let's first start with the best friend conversation. I can't stand Perk, never have. Now, to get back to this team, I think they're going to miss him more on the offensive end. I don't remember what I said this morning, but I'm going to go with the offensive end, mainly for this reason. When you look at how he is the hub of the offense, he gets other people involved. He has a relationship with Steph Curry, and I'm going to be a little disrespectful. I don't know if Steph is Steph without Dre on the floor. He makes things so much easier. He understands things. Now, Steph is going to be great. I'm kind of kidding about that, but Draymond adds to that energy. He helps navigate everybody on the offensive end. And Ramona gave me the most amazing stat when we were having this conversation. They have been held to under 100 points in 5 out of the last 6 games, right?
Yeah, that was just an alley-oop. You,
That was a-
you don't need to credit me. It's
I got
okay.
to drop my
He
assist
needs
off.
to credit you. People
Because
would
it
know that just didn't come from him.
No, not that one. But this comes, but that just shows you with the way he moves that offense, the way he makes sure that everybody is involved and everybody has energy. You can see it in his absence. 5 out of the last 6. That is not how the Warriors want to win games.
Well, and they've had some ups and downs,
Yeah.
some bumps and bruises, losing to the Timberwolves, beating the Bull, like it lost to the Bucks.
It's up
Like
and
it's been really
Curry's
up and
hand.
down.
Yeah.
It's been a little bit up
Gary
and down.
Payton
So clearly,
Jr.
Draymond
Second.
Green, if they can get him back, they will be happy about that, but at least 2 weeks. Ramona, though, I understand that you have an update on Ben Simmons. The trade deadline, it is getting closer every day. What is his mindset as we inch closer to that deadline?
You know, it's interesting because he does want to move on, of course, and restart his life and his career. But he's been going very diligently to do work with his therapist. And I think the sense is if it takes the entire season to trade him, if it takes all year for the Sixers to find a trade that's acceptable for them, he's prepared for that. And it sounds unbelievable to think like a guy who is still getting fined for every game, for every practice, for every weightlifting session that he's missing. As of the January 15th paycheck that he got, there's still heavy fines being laid on him every single time. He's okay if it goes the whole season, if that's how it goes.
So that's Simmons' mindset. Yep. What is the Sixers' mindset?
And we're having this is where we go into the game of chicken. They say the same thing. I mean, Joel Embiid was quoted after the game saying, "We have everything here we need." That's a heck of a statement. We have everything here we need. In other words, I'm not going to put pressure on my organization to find a resolution with this Ben Simmons trade because, frankly, if you've watched Joel Embiid the last 30 days, he's been one of the best players in the league.
Well,
look at his stats. And he's also, and I checked in, I go, what,